Hello and welcome to another edition of the Hack the Planet podcast, the number 2 Seattle area security themed podcast, folding at home team. Darknet Diaries is kicking our ass, but at least we're on the leaderboard now. So, in the beginning, this podcast started from a long-running weekly hacker gathering at the bar here in Seattle. Every week there were hackers ranting about one thing or another. We thought, hey, we should record some of this. Well, now the bar is closed for the quarantine, along with our studio. So welcome to our first remotely recorded episode. So let's go around the chat room and say hello. Starting with whoever's on my virtual left, we'll say Max.
Hey, how's it going?
And then to the left of him would be Justin.
How's it going?
And then Mitchell.
Yo, yo, yo. You know me, keeping it easy, keeping it real in the quarantine.
Well, they say the quarantine is going to make like half of the people take up day drinking. So I think we and then to the left of Mitchell is Daniel. Say hello.
Hey guys, how's it going? Daniel.
Cool. So we're all hackers in general are probably more used to working from home than most. I know in the Seattle area, our quarantine started like all the tech workers were told to exclusively work from home about a week before the general stay-at-home order came out. Because a lot of us have jobs where we can just stay at home, do things online. It's all the same. And many of us were predominantly working from home even before this. So I've noticed in all the news stories that have happened around this, there's been a like when all of the non-technical people were told to work from home, for the first time, there was this whole bevy of news articles or like online articles, calling them news is probably strong. Like, here's some tips and tricks for like working from home. And I read enough of those to get a sort of general impression that they seem kind of dumb or not rooted in reality. So like the one tip is they all say like, stick to a routine. Routine's important, right? And they say like, put on your regular clothes and all that. And this might just be me, but I have probably a different set of advice. It's like the routine's plenty important, but given that you're probably going to spill a good amount of beer or ketchup, like dust from chips, on your clothes in the course of the day. Definitely coffee. I actually, I found a use for all of those security conference shirts that I like took at the Black Hat vendor area, but then they're like it's like a vendor pitch for a company I don't really support, but it's a comfortable shirt.
Like they spend a lot of money on having high quality
like
shirts.
American Apparel brands.
They give you a really nice shirt, but it's for like something that you would never like. I have an HB Gary shirt, I got a Black Hat one year. I mean, or all those Splunk shirts too, Yeah. Or there's nothing wrong with Splunk, but like everyone's got one now, so you feel weird about wearing it out, right? So I've got, like,
it's not really like it's not really something that you want to be like, yay, I'm doing Splunk. It seems like the most boring part of the InfoSec industry.
Splunk, the world's most popular Perl script.
Yeah, I mean, that was Metasploit for a while.
It's hard to make jokes about Splunk because they made that they spent a lot of money producing a really high. It's a really funny video about how they're actually a t-shirt company, and they just make this logging manager. It's like it's a front for the t-shirt company, and yeah. So it's like they're so in on the joke. It's hard to
perfect.
But yeah, it's actually like it was pretty legit funny. Anyway, so that's my sort of practical tip for working from home is you know, you save your good t-shirts for when you actually leave the house. Also,
Wear something you can get Cheeto dust on.
yeah, Cheeto dust, yeah, or like donut powder. But sweatpants. So I have a couple of bathrobes, like a kilt and some sweatpants that are basically in the rotation because it's a little bit weird being, totally pantsless on a video call. I'll give you that.
It is.
But you're really just hedging against the occasion that something urgent will happen behind you and you'll have to stand up in a hurry. And that really doesn't happen that often, So you don't need to go full pants, in my opinion. But your mileage may vary. But I swear, like there's articles that are like, put your necktie on like you normally do, because otherwise you'll go insane. And I'm like, who are you people?
Also, that tip of putting a little bit of piece of tape, or they have those little nice the windows that you can slide back and forth that are over the camera on the webcam. Very useful. Just to prevent the accidental. Oh shit! I wasn't quite ready for a video call.
Yeah, well, and the other move, which is very, is you just put a piece of tape over your laptop camera, and then you always turn the video off on every video call, and you just say, "Hey, my home internet's not fast enough to support video. Sorry."
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, then you don't actually need pants. So
That's a much more straightforward story than the one that I was using. I was just stating that they never actually went through the hardware provisioning process for me. So I was using my old pen tester machine that I used for on the road, and I physically disabled both the camera and the microphone in the laptop itself. So oops.
I did that on a work laptop once and had to hop on a call real quick. And I was like, shit, why is my microphone and camera not working? And then I realized it was in the BIOS, and it was like after the call.
wow.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that like you could go that way if you want to sound competent,
Right, different goals.
like an adult.
Well,
Yeah,
that way you can just be like, "I'm sorry, it's not working. The camera doesn't work. I don't know what it is about this laptop."
I don't understand the wizard in the box. It's not doing what I asked it to do.
I will say, even despite like never joining video calls, there are some people that's just weird to talk to without pants. So like, I'd recommend having them on anyways.
Looks like we're in agreement. Pants, not a bad idea.
Not a bad idea, even when you're working from home.
We unironically have the phrase in my house that pants are the greatest tyranny of man. So,
but maybe not so
They
unanimous.
really
pants
are
optional. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm definitely anti-pants as a pre-existing platform position. I have a long running animosity with pants.
I'm gonna have to join Team No Pants here.
Yeah.
I almost feel like I should need to buy some sweatpants. I don't have any right now.
I'm wearing Adidas shorts right now, so
You know what? Like,
in case you were wondering about the Hack Planet fashion choices,
I think you could improvise a kilt or like a sari, out of something you find in your house if you don't want to go to the store right now.
Well, the thing is that when you start treating your daily attire as a psychological trick for yourself, right? The options for how you clothe yourself are endless, right? Because before you were dressing because it's like, okay, this is part of the social contract I have with all of my peers in the office. I dress a certain way in order to evoke some kind of, perception of me. But once you're doing it entirely for yourself, like I unapologetically wear like Hawaiian shirts and like canvas trousers for like island wear. I just want to feel like I'm in Hawaii. I'm not actually in Hawaii the whole time, but I feel like it in my head.
Well, and those those vibrant colors really hide the Cheeto dust.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like they're stain resistant.
I do have a lab coat. I should start wearing that around my apartment.
You'll just magically feel smarter during the day, you know?
Yeah, and it'll freak out everyone else in the apartment too. Got my N95 mask, my lab coat. Put on some latex.
Now we're
gloves.
cooking with gas.
Well, I mean, I don't want to ask for any advice about getting your connection to work working, because presumably you've got company IT people for that. But in terms of working on like side projects, so one thing that popped up as a challenge for us trying to edit this podcast was the ability to share just point to point kind of larger files with each other, while still being too cheap to pay for Dropbox accounts for everybody. So my Google account's been full, and Dropbox is sort of irritating. And it seems like the kind of the crackdown on like piracy websites like Mega Video or whatever left us with a regime of rules that makes it difficult to have any kind of free service that lets people just sort of share files with each other. So to that end, Mitchell actually wrote some code and came up with a really interesting deployment I would like to ask him about. Mitchell,
Sure.
why don't you tell us about C-File?
C-File is a file sharing media server / HTTP server that allows you to sync files. It has a fairly custom binary protocol, it looks like, for syncing files back and forth. I haven't explored with any of their like sync clients specifically, for example, but it runs an HTTP server. You can use login auth. You can add two-factor authentication to the login page. You can add other sorts of verification requirements, etc. You can do on-disk encryption with it whether you want, with your libraries if you care about that. It's very full-featured. It seems very stable. It wasn't super hard to set up. There was a, like a DigitalOcean walkthrough that I kind of went through and modified a little bit. And you just spin it up. It's two services. There's a sort of HTTP service for the front end, and then there's another separate protocol that runs on a different port that allows you to do file syncing. And if you put a reverse proxy in front of it, you can just do path routing to one or the other. And so I did that with Nginx, and was pretty slick to set up. So I'll probably be putting up some instructions for that on my GitHub. But another thing that is on my GitHub right now that I'll sort of mention is something on top of this is I don't know what C-File implements in terms of like external facing security. I don't know what the threat surface looks like. And that's something I'd really rather not think about is I'm sort of threat modeling. And so something I came up with about a month ago and I've been using on various services I've been deploying on a personal server I have is a Go binary that allows you to serve a HTTP service that when someone hits the right route, the right path on the HTTP server, whatever IP address was the remote function will be added to a firewall rule for the other service that I'm actually trying to lock down. And it's basically port knocking, except with just a little bit different interface that I can give someone a URL rather than having them knock different ports. And I wrote it myself because I'd seen something that was kind of similar maybe in Node, but it seemed really complicated. And then Moxie Marlinspike actually wrote some like specific port knocking thing in Python, but it was like with actual ports and it seemed way too complicated. It had like this whole differential privacy threat model that I didn't even care about. And so just one Go file, you compile it, you pass it 4 environment variables, you can set it up however you want. Works great, real reliable. Have it just set to run basically a UFW command on Ubuntu, because UFW is really nice where that if it tries to add a firewall rule twice, it won't add the same thing again over and over in the table. And it's worked out great.
So just to summarize all that, So you've written some code that's up on your GitHub, and we'll link to that in the summary. And so you've written some code that implements port knocking. So basically, the client would make a request to a particular web URL, and that would actually open up the C file server to them through the firewall. Right? That's what your code does.
Yep.
Cool. And then C file is a free server that is like run your own Dropbox, basically. So you can run a C file server, and different clients can connect to it and sync files. It also has this really neat feature that you can have like shared files between C file users, but you can also have files that are encrypted on the server with a key that's only ever in the client. So
That's
if
cool.
you can set it up with entirely client-side encryption. But basically, this lets people run their own Dropbox like service on their own infrastructure. And Mitchell's port knocking code means that if you have to open up a port, into your own home network to let your friends access the file sharing service, you can do it in a way where it's they have to click a magic URL first to open up access from the open internet to a service that you might not necessarily trust entirely. Like, you don't know it's bug free; it probably isn't.
Yeah.
But just because nothing is.
But
Yeah,
if
great
you're
summary.
sharing it with
Yeah.
like a minimal set of people that aren't probably going to fuck you over. And so yeah, that's good.
It's very cool.
Well, I thought that would be interesting for people because it's a problem we ran into ourselves, and I think that's a really cool solution. So awesome.
I definitely need to get that set up myself.
Yeah, it's worked great for Minecraft too, because that's an even protocol I know even less about.
Oh yeah. So I haven't done this yet, but one of my plans for the continued quarantine is I want to set up like I've been seeing all these like Minecraft server mods, for the older Minecraft that implement like CPU architecture stuff,
Oh yeah.
or like analog circuit stuff, and I'm like, oh. So I might be setting up a weirdly tricked out Minecraft server at some point in the near future. But the other tip I have, and this is probably a more common one, is there's this website Jitsi, which is just a free. It has free multi-person video conferencing that allows recording, because it just uses the HTML5 in the browser kind of WebSocket stuff to do video conferencing.
WebRTC.
Yeah, WebRTC. So it doesn't really like the server doesn't really do any heavy lifting. It's like mostly point to point in the browsers. But it's a site that I recently used, like my hardware hacking meetup. I did online last week, and I used this to do a video conference, and it's it's free. It allows recording, and it worked really well for lots of people. It doesn't require a special client. Everyone can access it in the browser. They didn't sponsor me, and also I haven't given them any money, but
They do have a
at the
mobile
moment
app,
it seems to be working pretty good. They have a mobile app. Yep. So it's Jitsi is JITSI. I definitely recommend checking that out. There are other video conferencing things available. Some of them have freebies, but all of them are a bigger pain in the ass in my experience. Like WebRTC is like really your best bet, and also you can host your own Jitsi server, so you can use their server.
Oh, really?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have we're hosting our own Jitsi server also, so that we don't even necessarily share. There's an open source server for it. You can run it on your own hardware, and that just prevents you leaking information about who is connecting to video conferences to whatever organization Jitsi is.
That's pretty cool.
Because I actually don't know anything about I'm sure they're lovely people, but you never you never know.
When people offer a service for free, it's always how are they making money?
Yeah, but in the WebRTC video conferencing case, it's basically like not really. They're hosting a static web page, essentially.
Oh yeah,
Like it doesn't really cost. It's not a resource intensive thing to host. So anyway, so this sort of leads into the next thing. I mean, does anyone have anything else?
no,
Yeah.
I don't.
Keep your finger on the mute button. So well, this sort of leads us to the next topic. The other thing that a lot of us have been doing from home is we've been trying to find some way of helping out with the general global virus problem. And I think the two, and there have been a lot of hackers have been trying to find out ways to help while housebound under your quarantine. So one of there's a whole set of interesting projects, and around 3D printing parts for face shields or face mask holders or respirator parts. There's even one that's actually come really, really far in the last couple days out of Spain, where they've come up with a design for a ventilator. So a respirator is like a thing that holds filters on someone's face, but a ventilator is like the breathing machine in a hospital that actually pumps air that helps people breathe. And ventilator availability is a important thing. There's a shortage of them. So somebody has come up with a design that can be laser cut out of sheets of acrylic. And the tricky thing with all of these projects, with the 3D printed material and with the laser cutting of things, is they're either going to be disposable or it has to be made out of a material that can be cleaned appropriately.
Yeah.
So all of these projects have been in contact with various people in various hospitals, and they've been actually doing a really quick design, prototype cycle where they've been producing things, showing them to hospital personnel, and getting feedback on what's wrong with the design. So a lot of these things have been iterating very quickly, in many cases daily. And I will link to some of these projects on our site as well. But there's a Facebook group which has been very active, and another site in Germany. It's like Makers versus Virus, and the 3D printed ventilator project, which actually is seems like it is nearing a stage where people will actually be comfortable using it, which has been very interesting.
With the laser cutting, it's interesting because that's actually pretty rapid fabrication as compared with like a 3D printer, which, I mean, you could use for some smaller parts, but it would be very slow and also very hard to clean too, unless it's possibly resin. But
well, the 3D printed stuff too there is a company that makes a 3D printer filament that has copper in it, which has antibacterial properties. However, this particular virus is not that weak to copper.
Oh, really?
And yeah. So there's you got to be a bit careful with that. So there were a lot of people that were looking into whether or not using this filament with copper would be worthwhile. But that's probably something that's going to need more, like, it may not be a great solution for this particular bug. But with the 3D, the 3D printed plastic is more likely to be making disposable stuff, probably. Just because it's difficult to clean it. But if you have, I wouldn't want to speculate on any of this, but you can follow the links on our site and follow the latest sort of state of discussion between the housebound prototyping community and people in hospitals. So the other thing that everybody can kind of help do from home, which I sort of mentioned in the intro, is folding at home. We have our own folding at home team. We very recently gotten on the leaderboard, which is the top 10,000 teams on the planet. Mostly thanks to Mitchell and his thread ripping monstrosity. So what did what did you build there, man?
So I have I guess, I don't know, it's hard to say. I don't want to say it's budget, but it's like, you just look at like price points for like processors these days. It's pretty extreme how much the prices dropped since the last time I put a build together like 10 years ago. So it's a Threadripper 1920X that has 12 cores, 24 threads, and it's got a big ass copper heatsink with some fans on it, and also have a GTX it's an MSI GTX 2070, and between those two sort of independent folding units, the GPU CUDA cores and then the 24 CPU cores, it can do a lot of folds quickly. And so I've been setting that up on my Ubuntu server, and it's running great. And it's just fun to see, it'll say project ID, X numbers, and so for example, it's like project 13850, which is one that just came across recently. It just says, these are simulations of NSP9 from SARS coronavirus 1 and SARS coronavirus 2, which may participate in viral replication by acting as a RNA binding protein. Its function is poorly understood in both viruses. And maybe this will help people simulate and understand both of those functions and those viruses, and that's kind of cool.
So yeah, I donated my my gaming machine to the cause. It's a few years old, but it's got an i7 CPU from like 4 years ago, and it's got like a 290X or something, so like an older GPU, but a fairly decent one from like years ago. But it's been doing pretty well in terms of work units for folding at home. So for those, we sort of just jumped into the details here, but folding at home is it's basically like a screensaver type thing. Although it doesn't actually run as a screensaver anymore, but it's similar to SETI at home in that you run it as a background process on your machine, and it will. When you're not, you can set it to only run when you're idle, and it will make your CPU cores and your GPU available to biotech researchers, medical researchers who are currently trying to run an enormous number of models of it's like potential drug interaction points on the surface of proteins, or I don't know. I'm not a biology guy, but
I think that it's basically like we know how a protein is encoded, and we know like what the chemical is, but we don't know. There's a lot of points at which it can like be folded, like sort of turn left or turn right here, and we don't.
So they have to like simulate it in three-dimensional space or something.
Yes, and there's like a whole wiki called Alchemistry where they talk about all of the different interactions between a lot of different molecule types and how to model them, and then they just basically pick a bunch of random initialization vectors for each of those molecules, and they let it run.
As somebody on the Black Lodge mailing list said the other day, like, we're basically all stuck in our houses until this gets folded. So you might as well donate your old machines to the cause.
Totally.
But so fundamentally, like, and the other surprising thing is a lot of people with protein folding, you always hear, oh, GPUs. But what's been interesting about this over the I've been running this for a few days now, and I've watched a lot of different projects go by, and it's pretty cool because you can see a 3D model on your computer of the protein they're folding while they're folding it. So it's like, I don't know what's happening at all, but I've seen it, which is kind of a neat thing. But you also they have links to all of the project pages, so you can see and sometimes those will have the actual pictures of the researchers. So you can see a little picture of your the researcher who's like running this project and a description of the project, and they're all like COVID-19 related at this point.
That's pretty awesome that you can sort of like, oh, hey, I know who I'm supporting and like who I'm helping. Yeah.
Well, but the really surprising thing for me is how much they need CPU cycles over GPU cycles, because I've been hearing for years how important the improvements in GPUs are to biological research and like protein simulation. But just to break it down, like GPUs are optimized in hardware to do matrix multiplication, but they're not that great at just basic addition. So anything that's just multiplying matrices by each other, GPUs are way better than CPUs, because CPUs are general purpose. They're not optimized for that.
They can do basic addition, but they can't do
not any faster than a CPU does.
They can't do conditionals. Like you have to have the same conditional for all of your data set, or else you're gonna have a terrible time.
That's true. So what's been interesting to me about this is what the demand for CPU work units has been recently for the sort of stuff they're doing for this particular virus right now. And the reason I wanted to bring that up is if you're sitting at home with a machine that's not running folding at home, you can still get a lot of points even if you don't have a beefy GPU. So even if you're only contributing CPU cycles, that seems to be something that's in high demand just at the moment. And if you do sign up for folding at home, you can join the Hack the Planet team. Our team number is 244374, or you can just search for Hack the Planet.
All caps.
All caps. Hack space the space planet. Once again, it's 244374. It just asks you for your team number when you install the client. Or you could go join the Darknet Diaries team. That's fine too.
Also worth noting. There's a passkey. If you look up folding at home passkey, you can create a passkey that you can load into your client, and with that passkey, it authenticates the user to the work that's being returned and qualifies you for a quick return bonus after the first 10 work units.
So if you all have like a spare botnet or something like that, and you want to donate to a good cause.
Speaking of spare botnets, there is some wild speculation. So if you look at the leaderboard of folding at home, the top few teams are interesting. Like,
yeah,
who are they? Where are those cycles coming from? And I don't know how much wild speculation we want to get into, right? But I have been surprised at the lack of. So I've been seeing people all over the internet say, "Why doesn't this organization donate cycles? Why doesn't this other organization donate cycles?" And I haven't seen anybody go into the press and say, "Hey, we're donating cycles." But if you look at the actual leaderboard, somebody is putting a lot of resources into this.
Yeah, if you sort by the last 24 hours worth of points donated,
and you might come to the same conclusions that we did. But it's been going awesome. I've heard that they were doing an exoflop, basically.
Yeah.
Folding at home is doing an exoflop. 1.5?
Yep.
Jesus.
That's very cool.
That's so this is like all of us together are a crazy supercomputer.
What's the
10
folding
times
equivalent
bigger
of
than
drill
the
baby
next
drill?
biggest?
Drill baby? What'd you say? Drill baby? Fold baby?
Yeah,
fold?
what's the fold baby fold? Yeah.
That sounds super gross. Like you can't work protein into it and make it sound better. But yeah. So, but it's kind of nice, just the whole. It gives you like something to stare at, and you feel like you're doing something useful. And it also gives you links to like what the current moment of virus research is. So if you actually understand biology words, you might you might be able to get something meaningful out of that. But
There was some interesting.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
There were some interesting implications about this technology going forward in the future after this pandemic as well that we had on our call the other day. It'd be interesting to see if this becomes more widely used in science and protein folding research.
Well, yeah, folding at home was before this virus started, but there were about I mean, I haven't checked the numbers recently, but they had 500,000 people sign up within a few days.
Woo.
Which is
at one point, and I don't think that slowed down. So it had been running for a long time, doing like cancer research projects, but it's really had a giant explosion of activity within the last week and a half. And it'll absolutely be useful to see what I did say earlier that they were running all virus stuff in there, but actually they had so many people sign up so fast and the infrastructure held up, their stats website falls over. Like the stats website is not working. It doesn't work right at all. It hasn't worked the whole time. There's
So
a
you wanna
third
go
party
to the-
stats. Yeah, exactly.
You want to go to the extreme overclocking sort of side web page,
Yeah.
and they have a specific folding subdomain.
And that site works right, but the folding at home stats website fell over dead 2 weeks ago and hasn't really come back. But the important thing is it didn't survive the onboarding, right? But the actual clustering stuff did survive the onboarding of hundreds of thousands of people so quickly. So they were able to actually distribute work units very quickly to all of the new people, even though the stat site wasn't up. But the result of that is there's more processing power in this cluster right now than they've been able to feed work units into it. So I did see one work unit go by that was for a cancer drug at one point during the last week, but just one. And there is still some like idle time where between work units it'll like wait a while before another one gets queued up.
Yeah, there is the whole synchronization thing because they have to. I mean, they do send out work units, I think, to multiple people just to like verify that that the computer
Consensus.
that
Also-
they folded it correctly, basically.
Also, there's a timeout functionality where there's a hard cutoff if you look at the project summary page for when it needs to be returned by. And then there's also a soft timeout where if a unit isn't returned in the time elapsed since it was dispersed by the timeout, it'll send it to another person saying, we don't know if we can trust that client.
Like, this client's just too fucking slow.
Or it got turned off, for example, didn't have enough uptime.
Cool. Well, so I mean, it's definitely sort of helped me cope, feeling like I'm doing something sort of useful. But I did work out that I was like, whoever the mystery top user is, I figured out I was doing about 1/8,000th of what they were doing. So
that's pretty good for
I thought that was pretty good for like a 4-year-old machine.
Oh.
I texted my friend Patrick. He's an oncologist and he did research in a fellowship in oncology research for 3 years in Houston, MD Anderson, and I wanted to ask him about his opinions on this going forward for cancer research. So if he gets back to me, I will relay that.
Yeah, well, it'll be interesting to see how many people forget to uninstall this once the current. But
very true.
Yeah, I think it's really just going to come down to like how many people forget to turn it off.
It was
or
the
how
same
many
thing
people
as setting at home. It's
exactly. Or how many people just leave it on. Well, the difference is
they're actually all using the Boink protocol, I believe, which is the City at Home protocol. I think Folding at Home uses it too.
they're very similar technologically. But like, I mean, with SETI at home, if you win, if we had won with SETI at home, the odds are it would have killed us all, right? Like, what are the odds you're going to contact some alien race and they're not going to kill you all?
That's
right?
benevolent.
Like,
right.
Yeah, that's benevolent, and like doesn't just want to like harvest your water or whatever. I don't know, right? Or like eat you. You know?
Once we're over with the imminent plague crisis thing, and you want to maybe not do protein folding, but you want to go into somewhere else, there's boink.berkeley.edu/projects or boink.berkeley.edu. They have lots of different Boink projects that you can donate CPU time and GPU time to.
That's pretty cool. Well, so but with the folding at home medical stuff, if you win, like, it actually doesn't get people killed. So
that's nice. But some people don't like people.
Yeah, well, they did just shut SETI down.
Also,
like, SETI's not running anymore as of like a month or two ago.
That's pretty crazy. I'm wondering if
they gave up.
Yeah, they gave up, and I'm wondering if it's also.
I blame Snowden. Well, what's weird is like, no, because like while he was just tweeting, because he had nothing else to do, he had this throwaway comment that was like, any sufficiently advanced civilization, there's only a brief window of time between when they invent radio communication and when they come up with encryption because they need it. And then with a radio telescope, encrypted communication would look just like noise.
Yeah.
Right. So like the whole SETI at home project is, even if there were a bunch of civilizations, all around, we would have to be like listening to just this brief moment of, noise between, before they came up with encryption.
It would still be like a weird spectrum, right? Like it would be
and at this point, all of our satellite stuff is encrypted,
True random is hard to achieve, though. With enough cycles, we would identify patterns and
like
randomness.
and it probably wouldn't be over the entire spectrum length too.
So
anyway, long story short, you're better off curing cancer.
Yeah, I acknowledge that he made the comment. I feel like there's probably some opportunity for nuance in that debate. But yes, obviously, dedicate as much cycles as possible to enabling cures and
the alien people won't be happy
remedies
until the aliens come and kill us all. I'm convinced.
There's also the climate prediction one, in case you're more worried about the impending global warming disaster than you are about a little plague.
Well, I don't know. I mean, a couple degrees doesn't seem so bad anymore.
One Armageddon at a time, okay? Just put them in the queue.
Slow your roll.
Churn through it one at a time. All right, one at a time.
Hey, that's not how this shit works in like 2025. That's when we're gonna have like another plague, and also like the fucking an asteroid is gonna come around, and there's gonna be an emerging global warming disaster.
Wait, I thought didn't an asteroid just pass now?
Yeah, I guess we did just have all of those happen this year.
Yeah,
we had the Australia being on fire for like a good while.
Mm-hmm.
The asteroid.
Nice summary.
Okay, yeah.
Well,
well then.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I'm also going to mention Rosetta at Home, which is like Folding at Home, but it's a little different offshoot run by the University of Washington, and it's something I haven't booted up yet, but it's something I've been looking into, potentially running in parallel, especially if I'm getting intermittent units from Folding at Home.
Yeah.
So Rosetta at Home, they are also working on folding proteins for the coronavirus as well, and just a different lab doing the same work.
Cool. All right. Maybe that's enough on being useful. How about coping strategies? So, I kind of went with the crowd on this one. I had previously dabbled with Animal Crossing. I will admit to that as being as being a Nintendo, like I play Nintendo games. I'll play every Zelda game that comes out. I'm one of those guys.
Yeah.
Um,
I bought a Switch legitimately just to play the Zelda game.
yeah, of course, because
And
they
that's
didn't even bother releasing. They didn't even bother releasing 3
Frankly,
years. They were like, "Here's Breath of the Wild and a new hardware platform," and we're piecing out for 2 years. Like, yeah. But
I
I
legitimately
gotta
bought
say,
the hardware platform. Oh, I was saying that I legitimately bought the hardware platform just to take advantage of the production routing bug before the inventory for that sold out and they adjusted in manufacture. Yeah. Anyway,
so I have been playing this new Animal Crossing game, and it was nice to do something just sort of repetitive and mindless for a few days. But at some point, you get all your money trees planted, and then you get you upgrade the house like a million times, and you're kind of like, what, bored, I guess. But I find myself thinking about setting up a Minecraft server, or maybe like messing around with a VR game. So I was going to ask you guys, maybe we could just go around the room. What are you doing that's better than Animal Crossing? Because I need to know.
right.
Uh,
I don't know who wants to start. Max has
let's
played.
start with Dan.
Yeah, you're talking.
Max has played games with me before. I have a tendency to find some games with very interesting either game design implications or social implications. One of my favorite PC games is a game called Rust, which has very interesting social implications. It was kind of the precursor to a lot of the open world survival shooter genre.
Basically,
Things like
internet toxicity
Daisy.
manifest.
Oh yeah, it's like a physical manifestation of online toxicity. It's amazing to watch people go from like when they first get introduced into the game, they kind of go from normal civility to just absolutely going feral within the span of like 6 hours of the game. At which point,
because
they
you end up
literally
getting killed over and over and over again until
Right.
you just stop having emotions.
Right. You stop trying to socialize with anything that you perceive to be of like or of self, and then they just start screaming at people when they spawn naked with a rock, just charging people, trying to kill anything that moves so that they can get resources and get started again. That's a very strange game. We don't have to go back into that one any deeper. If you want some WTF moments in PC gaming, go check out Rust. I'm going to leave that there.
Is there a deeper level you can get to with that?
It's so there's a lot of psychological implications to playing that game.
You called my bluff.
Yes. It's there's many levels to that game. The survival shooter genre itself is interesting because it's effectively you're effectively manipulating how you utilize time by fucking over other people who have made investments of time into said game, right? Because time converts to resource, and your ability to steal resource from another individual is a way for you to net save time in the game. This manifests itself interesting at like high levels in the game, where individuals are effectively using exploits in order to artificially game their ability to kill other people and consume and take their resource. So
you're basically paying
Jeff
Bezos.
It gets darker and more twisted, and there's a lot more underhanded behaviors the higher and higher and more competitive in the game you get. But we can put that aside. I don't really spend a lot of time PC gaming these days because fold at home. I spend more time on consoles because that's it's pick up and drop. It's a lot easier to compartmentalize how much time you spend on the game. And so one of the games that I've been playing is a looter shooter called Division 2. So it's looter shooters are a genre of game where FPS component, but you spend there's also this kind of like fixed team size dungeon crawl element to it where you're trying to get better and better gear, similar to like an RPG or an MMO. So games that fall under that genre would be stuff like Borderlands. The Division is a Tom Clancy title. Destiny 2 falls, like Destiny of all iterations fall under that category of game genre. So there's many of these. Anthem, which was like a failed one in this genre. What drew me into Division 2 predominantly was some of the narrative is kind of interesting, and I'm sure plays no parallels to our current predicament today. But effectively, there's the framing, because it's a Tom Clancy title, right? It tries to frame itself in some pseudo legitimized potential future of present day. And so it plays this narrative of someone modifies smallpox, releases it on a bunch of currency that's in circulation. Everybody gets infected immediately. The pandemic has, disastrous effects on population numbers. And then you're playing as like a member of some government agency that's trying to rebuild order after the fact, right? So you have all of the bones of civilization around you, destroyed structures, quarantined regions of the city. The first title was, based in New York. The second title is based in DC, busted out cars, there's no gas left, so none of them are running, this type of dystopian futurescape. And so you spend that time running around playing soldier, collecting as much resources as you can to survive, and enabling a community of like-minded survivors to survive in the game as well. When you focus on it purely from a game mechanics standpoint, you're again, you level up till max level, and then the end game is all this kind of like fixed timed raids that you perform in order to get opportunities for best in slot loot to drop.
So you're like running around in a pandemic themed post apocalyptic thing, shooting stuff. And
yeah, pretty much
getting better armor.
Yep.
So it's like a
Is
Grand
that
Theft Auto for the modern day.
It's more like Destiny. I mean,
Destiny, that's fair. Okay.
Yeah,
Grand Theft Auto's got a kind of weird interface.
I mean, there's some interesting notes in the way that the story develops, right? There's like, one of the expansions to the game, this like paramilitary, private military organization starts invading the area and trying to assert, authoritative control over everything. And so you end up being this kind of like liberation fighter to an extent to try and keep all the settlements independent. There's like all sorts of weird little rabbit holes you go down.
So is this is this like a massively multiplayer thing? Like you're playing online with a bunch of other people?
It's instance multiplayer. So people can join your instance and you can roam the open portions of the map. There's instanced PvP zones where if you go into it, there's a max of like 16 players per instance of the PvP zone that you get to play against. Or you group up to 4 people and you play instances of the dungeons to go into specific areas to get specific loot.
So have the servers been busy?
Oh, quite. This publisher in particular ended up selling a version of their game before they recently released an expansion. So they sold the core game for like $1 or something as like a promotional campaign right before the expansion came out, so they could then generate the sales numbers for the expansion, because most of the player base had grown weary and stopped playing, of course.
So you're saying earlier that it's sort of unrealistic because there's all this toilet paper everywhere.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. When compared to our current experiences, if you're looking to it as like a simulator for present day, there's little piles of TP outside of every single dilapidated and abandoned porta potty. So I don't think it's not a quite accurate representation from that regard. I've got a few notes and feedback to the game developers. Clearly, they got some stuff wrong. But no, I mean, the game is really entertaining. What game is I played the Division 1 and I tend to be very picky about what games I spend time in. This publisher tends to be really bad about shipping titles with bugs present in them, where you get to do it's a very game glitch rich environment, and game glitching is looking for exploits that are exploits in the game that are that can be performed through the normal human interface device. So like using your controller and performing a set of actions, you trigger this bug. And the Division has experienced a considerable number of those in both their first title and their second title. So I tend to, there's a part of me that gets takes a lot of enjoyment in finding those types of game glitches as my pastime from my day job. And that's one of the biggest reasons why I end up playing that title versus others. The most recent bug they continue to try and patch and then end up missing some element of it is there's a bug where if you have a weapon out, you perform a series of actions interacting with a gun installation that's in the world map. You end up trying to perform a sequence of events as you mount the gun mount, and then when you unmount it, it effectively resets your base damage to whatever your equipped weapon was at the time that you mounted the gun. And so you continue to do this to have this kind of cumulative DPS as your base score to the weapon that you have drawn until you're doing 10, 20 million damage per round off of like your pistol, basically. And that's so it gets quite obnoxious quite quickly. And considering that the game itself tries to throttle, air quotes, the rate at which you collect gear by making the best areas for loot acquisition to be very difficult. Like enemies have high health points, high armor pools. They deal a lot of damage. Your ability to affect how much DPS you do, these types of exploits are really effective at basically negating all of those gates and just collecting all of the gear and game in a way that effectively breaks any controls that the developer has in the future. So
it's pretty awesome.
It's a great game. Tons of glitching opportunities in it. Really fun if you have a group of friends to play with.
They should have honeypot areas that are just people that are like areas where everyone's just way too high level and you're not even going to be able to like compete with them.
Oh, absolutely.
But then you're it's over there one-shotting them all. It's like, maybe this guy. I'm actually sort of surprised you haven't gotten banned yet.
Right? I think the irony is that at one point, the narrative around, okay, well, you find all the places where people are glitching and then punish the glitchers, and that's the way you reestablish some form of balance in your game. I mean, that went out the window, in their first title, let alone their second title. They've shown such a consistent error rate in the games that they produce. They're clearly not investing in Q&A or any form of game, pre-testing.
Is it competitive or is it PvP or PvE?
There are PvP elements to it, which is what makes it so frustrating, because it's basically the way that they try to keep a minimum number of hours of gameplay or replayability is that the gear itself is kind of like a dice roll on how good of an attribute you get, right? Like each attribute has a cap of like 10% augmentation or something like that, right? And so it's a dice roll every single time one of those items drops, so that they try to get you to put in a considerable investment of hours just by getting you to farm the exact same gear over and over and over again until you get a perfect roll, right? Well, if you take these exploits and then you're able to, shrink down the total time to do those runs, to 10 a minute versus 10 an hour, well, you're obviously going to end up with a lot more opportunities to drop that perfect item. And once you have it, you're basically uncontested in PvP.
Okay.
Yeah,
I mean, but at the same, I get that, but also like a lot of games are just like they make you grind way too fucking long too.
Agreed. And the irony is that I would actually put this game in that category. Where, they think their player base wants to grind forever, and I don't think that that's actually what their player base wants. Yeah. And I think the only reason they've actually garnered any success is because their game has always been exploitable. And I don't think they know that or are self-aware enough about that. So they keep trying to make the game harder, which then has a net adverse effect on their player numbers because they end up patching away the things that allow you to game the speed at which you progress or grind gear. So long-winded way. I'm probably investing too much of my personal time playing Xbox Live right now with friends. But it's a good way of still socializing with people I know in the real world.
Yeah.
And so far Xbox has not experienced any ops issues, or not any that have persisted longer than a few hours. So yeah, that's how I'm coping, playing Xbox Live. Division 2.
Is Mitchell, what are you playing?
I've
Anything?
been playing a fun game called Stock Jump. It's this dumb web game. It's actually kind of fun. You basically, there's tickers from all around the world of like all sorts of international stock exchanges and like cryptocurrency handles, and basically you have this little guy. It's kind of like the line jump or the line draw game, where it's like it goes up and down, but it's like the chart of a stock recently. And so I got a pretty good one on a Korean 10-year bond ETF, where it goes like way up and way down and way up and way down, and then you jump and you get like a really long sort of jump after it. So that's the first game I've been playing. Other than that, a bit of Minecraft.
You're playing that on your RTX 2070 with Threadripper GPU, right?
I got to figure out a way to do some hardware acceleration on it. And I've
like
also
a
been playing a server maintenance administrator. Which is a really fun one.
That's real, or if that's
Is that it? Yeah, I don't. Is that a joke?
No, it's a fake game that I made up when I SSH into my thing that I have to write
Phenomenal.
system
but-
D units for, and I tell myself I'm playing a game because I hate it.
Oh god, I fucking
So-
hate writing system D units.
Uh,
I hate anything with system D though. I just really hate Leonard. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll just put that out there. This podcast is not this podcast in general. I don't believe is a fan of Leonard puttering.
Well,
I mean,
I just missed. There was nothing wrong with the old init.
yeah, I just don't.
And DNS worked. I don't.
Yeah.
I
I don't need my resolve to be part of my init, and I also don't. Yeah,
we got to save all this for.
That's a
We'll
big
do a
rant.
special. We'll do a special episode. It'll be like the Christmas special or whatever. It'll be nothing but system D rants. Right? We'll just save it all up.
That's
Put it in one place.
I could definitely go on for about half an hour about that.
Indeed. Yes. Quite easily.
Sorry,
So-
I didn't mean to interrupt you. Mitchell.
Oh no, I'm just looking at the latest folding at home project I got and getting a face of the smiling grad student who's working on this project.
So with stock jump, is it like X jump? Like there's a little guy that's jumping?
Yeah, so you can like click on
And
it
you
to make him
jump
like.
on the stock of like it just gives you some random stock and then you're
Oh
gonna
yeah,
have to
you can
jump on
pick,
it?
and it'll say like the last 30
Oh.
days. Here's the line, and it'll draw like a little path for you to go up and down. And
So did that get more fun like recently?
oh my god, especially with all the volatility in the market. Like I'm watching. I've got Bloomberg TV on in the background, and it says like the VIX is at 65,
Oh.
which is that might not mean anything to you, but that's a very large number for that specific index.
So,
and that just tracks volatility in the market.
Is it? Here's an important question. So does it have like a Bitcoin?
Oh yeah, it's got Bitcoin, Ethereum. It's got like 50 different cryptocurrency handles.
Oh well, yeah, that does sound exciting.
And you can do like Taiwanese and like Vietnamese stocks and like a language you can barely understand, but it might look like something kind of interesting.
So they have that VR roller coaster simulator game. It would be
That's
really
a thing?
fun. Yeah,
Oh,
it would be really fun to combine that with the stock ticker prices. Especially with like if you could turn that Bitcoin meme into like reality.
yeah, Bitcoin.
Literally ride the literally.
That would have an interesting effect on society if it really caught on, right? Because like as soon as there was like some shit went down, it's like, oh, the market's like getting volatile. Everyone's like, I'm just gonna go home and put these goggles on. It's like it's a good time for VR today. but
It is a good time for VR.
Yeah, is that what you're doing, Max?
No, my headset is broken, and
Oh,
yeah, it broke like 6 months ago. So I have been playing D&D and painting minis
Oh, nice.
during D&D virtually. We're playing D&D virtually because we don't all want to get the SARS.
are you using that site for that, or how does that work?
Yeah, it's there's Roll20, but honestly, I sort of this is not an ad for Roll20 because it's just really the only one that exists, and I'm actually also trying to make one that like is better than Roll20 because I'm really sick of how shitty Roll20 is.
Definitely not an ad for Roll20.
D&D Beyond is fucking awesome.
That
to keep track of
escalated
character
quickly.
sheets. Yeah, no, Roll20 has like the worst interface ever, and it just like it actually, as much as it has helped connect people, it's also hurt a lot. Like I feel like just playing D&D over Discord would have been a lot easier at times, just because that way we wouldn't have been distracted with like the terrible user interface and like the fact that like you can't really make a map. Like you have to spend like an hour beforehand setting up a map when like, I mean, that's just an unreasonable amount of time when you have so many things else to do when you're playing, when you're dungeon mastering.
I don't want to date myself here, but in the 90s, so I gather, people to play D&D over like message boards.
Yeah.
So it's possible.
Oh yeah, no, that's definitely some of the earlier games that I had played before I actually was friends with nerds in real life.
Well done, Justin. Go.
Sorry. What's going on, guys? I'm playing Animal Crossing. I wasn't paying attention. What?
Are you?
No. So I guess let's see. We're coping mechanisms. I guess first of all, I kind of just assume that we're a demographic where we're affected less, and we need coping mechanisms less because we already self-isolate. But
yeah, you know what? Let me frame this a little bit differently for Justin, because unlike the rest of us, I actually focusing on like working from home and how hard it is to be inside playing video games all day. But Justin does
emergency locksmith services,
emergency locksmith stuff for that involve like computer chips and fobs and stuff. So he's actually listed as an essential job. In the governor did an announcement of like everyone has to stay home except for these jobs. Is like his job is literally on the list. So I wanted to ask you, Justin, what it's like to have to go outside in this sort of environment, other than just feeling nice to be essential, I guess.
Yeah, it's
which must be nice.
It's surreal. In a literal way, but for a number of reasons. I guess one thing being that Seattle is such a ghost town right now, that I can drive anywhere at any time of day, and there's like no traffic. I've never seen anything like it. And you can parts of downtown, you just see like no cars, no people. Looks like an abandoned city. It's weird. Like even most of the homeless people aren't out on the streets, which is
where did they go?
That's a good question. I do not know the answer to that fully.
I think they set up some shelters for them somewhere, but
oh really?
Yeah.
Wow. All it took was one little virus, and then finally we had social protections.
I think a problem that they're having at a lot of the shelters is the mats are only like 3 feet apart from each other.
Oh shit!
So it's kind of like a breeding ground. So I think they're trying to build more shelters and space the people further apart.
Yeah. Also, like lots of stabbings happen, I bet, at that point, because I mean, if there's one thing that I know about those places, that there's some people who really don't like being in there, or just like generally not very socially well adjusted.
True.
Stabbings.
So I will say that. So, I'm primarily doing emergency services. I am doing my best to, I'm wearing nitrile gloves. I don't currently have any masks because everywhere I've stopped so far has not had any. I need to. Meant to stop by the Vashon pharmacy. I heard that they were selling like up to 3 to a person, but I forgot when I was out there.
I've got
Trying
an
to.
N95 mask if you want.
Yeah. I might pick one up from you, or stop by the Walgreens and check again. I
Just
am
like hang it on the tree
I keep my
outside.
distance. I think one of the, I'm more
Drop it from the window.
concerned- Right. Just throw it out the window. Smack me with it. I've always carried around Germex in my car, like always. So that's not a thing. I always do that. And then wearing the gloves, that's something that I do 100% of the time now. Trying to keep 6 feet between the people I'm working for. I think what's interesting is, so there's still emergency calls. People still are locking themselves out of their house. People are still losing the keys to their car. Need a car to drive to the grocery store. So still having to do that. We're still getting a few calls, like random calls, for people who just want like regular non-emergency locksmith services, which is super weird to me. Only a few of them, but it's like, why would you call for this service right now?
You know what?
I mean,
I bet you it's just like people, like so many people are just in their house. They're probably cleaning things and like making little life maintenance checklists.
Yeah,
Right.
they can finally get
You
shit done.
Yeah,
So,
and so they're probably like, oh, well, I always for my car key made, and then yeah.
Well, for instance,
That makes sense to me.
There's I talked to a lady the other day, and she wants her locks rekeyed, and she said it wasn't an emergency. She could schedule, and I was like, okay. And she sounded like just like a normal lady with 2 kids or whatever, non-emergency. I couldn't figure out why she was just scheduling this right now. I don't know. So that's kind of weird. Here's I think the kicker is like how many people still try to shake my hand. Yeah, like when I get done doing the service, like I let them in their car, their house, whatever, make a key for them, and like they stick their hand out to like shake my hand, and I'm wearing the gloves, and I'm like 4 feet away or something, and like I might like hold out my fist for a fist bump, but it gets awkward for a second because no, I'm not gonna shake your hand right now. It's
a hard habit to break.
Yeah.
It is. It's deeply. It's actually.
No.
It's deeply ingrained in me as well. Like just kind of a thing. But I don't know. It's maybe that's it. Maybe it's just pure habit, and that's what they're going off of. Still, you think? I mean, that's one of the things that you hear repeated, like just nonstop every day, right? I don't know. As far as games, to keep myself busy, I guess because I have been working less, so I've been isolated a little bit more. I don't really have anything new. I've been playing this game that I've played off and on for 3 years on my phone. It's called Valkyrie Connect, and it's got like inventory system with items and leveling up. It's got PvE, PvP. I definitely would not recommend it, but that's what I've been doing. I've been thinking about as I've posited before, getting back into Diablo 2 with some of the downtime.
Didn't they release a mobile Diablo as well?
I don't know. So there's open Diablo
Really?
now, but it doesn't. Yeah. But it doesn't work on like for multiplayer yet. So
that's fine.
So
Max,
yes.
you're thinking of Diablo Infinite, and I believe they announced it at BlizzCon, but they actually haven't released the title yet.
Okay.
There's a new Diablo coming out, and I hear. Well, I don't know. We'll have to see. I'm very interested to see if it's more in the vein of Diablo 2 or Diablo 3. Probably not.
Yeah.
Probably
Did anyone
not.
Think Diablo 3 was an improvement?
No. Well,
I never
there are people that think that. Yes.
Are there?
There are. Yes, I've met people like that. They're few and far between. But there are people that feel that way. Yes.
I only looked at it. I never played it, but it didn't seem like a big pile of crap.
It was hard to actually play. Like it required to be online all the time or work. So there was no offline mode, and their servers were slow. So it would be like it would lag out trying to connect to the server, and then it was just really irritating. You just had to wait for the thing to load. and it was sort of like that defeats the purpose of having a procedurally generated video game to some extent.
Yeah, well, it was Diablo 3 actually procedurally generated?
Well, that's Diablo's whole thing is procedurally generated dungeons.
Oh no, the dungeons aren't procedurally generated. They're
Not all the maps are
D2
they're
is
automatically
all static.
generated.
D2 has like two options
No.
for some
They're
caves,
random. They're randomly
the
generated.
same.
The monsters
What?
are, but
The monsters, yeah, the maps on D2 are not. They're static.
yeah.
You guys eventually
Oh.
found your way to the right answer. Yeah, the mobs were procedurally generated in Diablo 2. In Diablo 3, they introduced procedural generation of the map layout as well.
Oh, okay. And so D3 there, they do the
But the
map.
D
Okay.
the D2 maps were like random though. They weren't all the same.
No, they weren't
It,
random.
it was a static map layout, but they randomized the mob like locations, mob like difficulty, that type of stuff. So they were procedurally generating what the NPC adversaries you were seeing, but they weren't procedurally generating the layout of the map itself.
I don't know. I think
I have the maps like literally memorized.
Yeah.
I've spent more
I was
time
gonna
playing
say,
Diablo
like-
2 than any other game in my entire life, I think. And like I literally have like the dungeons and stuff memorized.
Same, yeah.
all right. Well, I'll take.
We're
your
now
word
a gaming podcast.
for it. Yeah.
Thank you all for
Well,
Game
participating.
you know,
I know.
it's like it's you know it's kind of hard to care much about computer security.
I mean, if we're gonna be talking about Diablo 2,
I mean,
I'm fine with
oh.
it. So,
Although that actually brings us to our next topic. By the way,
Yeah, we
so-
haven't talked about computer security
Yeah.
once.
this is what. Yeah. Here we go. We'll bring it home. So, yeah. So for our final topic, I wanted to talk about the articles and news stories and other topics that are sort of being drowned out by all of the talk of the virus. So I think one of the Aaron Sorkin shows used to call this "taking out the trash." Maybe it was The West Wing, or I don't know, that news one. But so you know, one thing is we're not going to go into any detail on any of these, but there have been an insane number of computer security bugs over the last couple of months. Like in back-end services, there was a wormable bug in Windows. There's like more hardware bugs from Intel and AMD. All kinds of just crazy exploitable bugs. And we're not particularly talking about that because it, you know, to be honest, it's like kind of more of the same from last year, and you know, what do you do? But so I was wondering if anyone else had kind of picked up on any sort of interesting news stories that no one else is talking about.
well, to that effect, I just want to throw in real quick that, as you guys know, I typically kind of keep a list of like new security things and like and post it to our Slack and stuff. And like the news has been so overwhelmed with. I haven't. It's been filtered through. I haven't seen anything like or it's passed by me in the since our last recording. So I do not know.
I
but
the one thing that the government is again trying to take away our encryption because they like
The
to
Earn
do
It
that.
bill.
Yeah,
Motherfucking Earn It bill.
no,
Yeah.
dude, they can't do
They're
that.
gonna
Then the
earn it.
aliens, then the alien study program will find us. They can't do that.
Yeah,
That's actually an interesting tactic. Just expand the scope of anyone's threat model in order to invalidate. It's like, well, we'll just go one more meta level in your threat
Can you
model. Your position is
Can
wrong.
you tell I used to be a security consultant?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's great though that they I don't know this bill. They're like they just want to create a backdoor that like only the good guys of the government can access, because you know in all histories and all timelines we've definitely seen that governments are always the good guys, and that
Max, you don't have to worry. The presumptive Democratic nominee right now only bragged about writing the Patriot Act multiple times.
oh yeah Yeah,
It'll be
why are we
fine.
in the darkest timeline? Also, what's that Rick and Morty quote? Like, when did this shit become the new default? The fascism becoming the new
Oh
default.
yeah.
I want to figure out. I actually would love to figure out what the what's the clock speed for civilization? Because I like it. I know it's come up
Elaborate.
more than so. Like
Seems
you
about
have
100
Clipper
years.
Chip. Yeah, so you have Clipper Chip, and then you have this, and I know that there's going to be a couple of pips in there, but like, what's the clock speed for civilization for us to reiterate on a previously failed idea in order to reintroduce it as it basically unchanged with new language. Like,
We're
I
doing
want-
a good
I
job
want
there from
map that clock speed because that's
From-
that's the civilization's clock. Like we should just
Well,
map that for
We've
every
set that to
single
about 2 years in America.
issue. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, when was the last time they wanted a backdoor in all crypto? I think it was Hillary Clinton was the last one, right? So that was like maybe 20. It was like during the 2015. So that was probably about 5 years ago.
Yeah.
4 years.
I mean, I'd have to
Clock
Google it.
does
Yeah,
the clock speed sync with presidential
4
elections or Senate turnovers.
could be.
I mean, that's where we get most of our bad ideas.
Right.
or
Right.
maybe it's
Exactly.
like halfway. Maybe it's like halfway between Senate turnovers and yeah, somewhere between 4 and 6.
Well, to
You
be
can probably
clear,
you can probably dial it in.
to be clear, I'm willing to bet money. Like if we started trying to do root cause analysis, I'm willing to bet money. It's not that the original bad idea went away, but the same lobbyist found a new individual to push far enough to actually be willing to put a bill out.
Oh, and to take advantage of whatever the impending news cycle crisis is that's going to distract from this. It's like,
Yeah.
I mean, like the thing is that the people have gotten real fucking good at determining when the public is going to react to something, and all it is like just gauging the metric on when it's an appropriate time to launch something, or when it's an appropriate time to create a media buzz about something else in order to launch some backdoor or like some other sort of covert thing.
Sure.
Yeah, good luck creating a media buzz at the moment.
I did find it quite
Oh
bizarre.
no,
that
you don't need to create a media buzz. Like that's the whole thing. Like nobody wants any introspection in what happens in the government.
When I first saw the announcement of that bill, I was enraged, obviously, and I did a small amount of research, and it looks like that it's gonna die very quickly in the House. I mean, hopefully.
Yes.
That being said, it's just fucked up that kind of legislation is still being put forward.
Well,
yeah.
so I'm never that scared of those sorts of things because fundamentally, they're going to have trouble banning something which, you can implement encryption entirely with source code. Source code is protected speech.
Yeah.
So they're never going to be able to stop people from like copying source code that can do encryption. So how are they going to be able? And then encryption by default. This is the second part. Encryption by default produces something that's high entropy, which is difficult to detect and can be hidden in anything else that's high entropy quite easily. So it's like if you're going to ban all encryption, you can't prevent people from doing it, and then after that, you can't detect it if it's happening.
the new format will be freaking encrypted RARs because you can't tell whether or not it's encrypted or whether or not you have the password.
Well, that's
Or
I mean, for real,
Well,
and I've used that to exfiltrate documents before. That it gets by really simple kind of email filters. Because a lot of like email filters will be like, oh, can decrypt this, or can I unzip the archive and look at what's in it, and then maybe they have different failure modes if you encrypt the archive or not, or put an encrypted archive inside another archive or whatever. But anyway, so yeah, I'm not too worried about encryption getting banned because even if it was banned, they can't enforce it, and even if they could enforce it, they can't detect it. So. But usually, even like the craziest politician, eventually one of their aides can explain that to them. Like this whole thing is pointless.
I think the part that I always find fascinating every single bills comes up is that you just know there's like 300 Stego nerds out there who are like, finally, my time.
Yes, 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 yes. Absolutely, yes.
That's so true.
Yes.
Oh my god!
I've been preparing to serve you people for like the last several decades, and finally, my skill will come to pass.
It could happen. It's not, all hope is not yet lost.
I love Stego. I think it's a great problem domain. I really do. That wasn't a knock against Stego people.
It's one of my favorite CTF categories. It's a great CTF category for sure.
It is. Yeah. It's a wonderful CTF category.
So Dan, did you have something in missed news stories?
Earn It was a really big one. I think that's a really popular one. On the geopolitical spectrum, Putin is now allowed to rule Russia until 2036. I think they ratified some constitutional amendments. Yeah. So
again?
Yeah.
You'd think that he just would like to sit back and
he's a benevolent dictator. He's a benevolent dictator. He doesn't tell people you will love me for the entirety of my life. He lets them ask him to continue leading every
so many more years.
Yes, because I'm sure that vote was entirely done.
Yeah,
with the people.
It's what the people want.
I've got a good tie-in with Putin about one of his first big moves is in the wake of that. Actually, I guess there's a little before that, but OPEC Plus, the big oil cartel that's kept oil prices stable for decades, they kind of broke up, and it kind of really messed with the oil markets. And like before any of the shocks to the market from the coronavirus, that was the first big one that was like, oh shit, the prices of crude oil are dropping like a rock, and they've continued dropping like a rock. And in some places in America, there are negative spot prices on crude oil, where producers must pay the transporters in order to take the oil away because they're pumping so much.
That's amazing.
Wow.
Because nobody's fucking driving right now.
Saudi Arabia, because of a dispute with Russia, said that it's going to massively pick up its oil production and its capacity, and then Russia is going to retaliate and do the same thing, and there's going to be a price war, and it's going to squeeze all of the American producers that are super leveraged with debt into bankruptcy. There's going to be a lot of layoffs. There's going to be a lot of reorganizations, and that's just in the oil sector, let alone the rest of the economy.
How many people does the oil sector actually employ in America? I guess like the fracking does a lot.
See, I don't know, but I know a lot of folks from back home who used to go work in the oil fields, and Canada. So it's kind of like something I think about a lot.
Yeah, Canada definitely has a lot.
But
what was I saying earlier in the podcast? Drill, baby, drill. Right.
Yeah, we're drilling for prices, new price floors.
Hasn't the fracking economy overtaken the oil economy?
Well, if it hasn't, it will soon.
Well, soon. Okay, it's getting close.
Yeah, because actually, that's a lot for natural gas too, right? And that I'm not sure if that's.
It's just similar. A different energy source. I mean, I don't know.
It is, but like you can't easily convert something that's running on natural gas over to work on oil like quickly. And so like that, if you're supplying natural gas, I mean, and that you can't ship it is what the other one. Not very.
So
easily.
what is it? So OPEC broke up.
Yeah.
So that's no longer a thing.
I mean, it kind of is, but it doesn't really matter because Saudi Arabia is just like, fuck it, we're not going to respect your prices. We're going to set our own, and so now everyone else is having to scramble to do the same.
I see. So Saudi Arabia is like out of OPEC. So then
the entity of OPEC still exists. Some of the key members of OPEC have elected to no longer abide by some of the ruling authorities that entity claimed to have over oil production.
Wow. Macroeconomics is hard.
So there's even more if you want to talk about the corporate debt bubble that basically was reliant on continual growth that is no longer existent for obvious reasons.
Mitchell, have you ever thought about playing Animal Crossing?
I need to get a Switch. I've been meaning to get a Switch for a while.
Soma,
Yeah.
Like let me tell you about Soma, my friend.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it's just fun to watch all of the machinations of people who were like trying to go for hypergrowth, just have it blow up in their face.
Okay. So this is fun. All right. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
It's
nothing
fun.
for me.
fun.
I'm not
This
exposed
is
to any of
fun.
it, so
I have been a big fan of the work less party for a long time. That's basically where you just don't need to work so goddamn much because we live in the future and robots do half of everything.
Is there a thing you can vote for, or is it not that kind of party?
It's not that kind of a party. It's just a party where I just work less than
it's like the
normal.
rent is too damn high party.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, with enough hackers and enough commitment, we get more than that.
I feel like the work less party could have a platform, but who's gonna write it?
Oh wait, no. There's actually like a Canadian political party called the Work Less Party.
Right. There
I did
are
not know
other
that.
ideas, other really entertaining ideas along the same
They're probably
vein.
super shady too. Now that we brought them up,
Yeah. Shortening
Well,
the
this
work
is
week,
not- this is not an
liberation,
endorsement.
decentralization, and environmentalism.
This is not an endorsement.
That sounds pretty good.
Yeah, I like those broad.
But it's not an
spectrum things.
endorsement.
Yeah, it's not an endorsement.
Right.
They might be crazy as hell.
Yeah, exactly.
Carry on.
Other interesting applications of this same idea. People have been looking at potentially exploiting the legal infrastructure around religion as a method of making a 4-day work week some form of religious process that needs to be respected formally.
Fridays
So,
are
like,
a
you just
Discordian
have a-
holiday, right?
Yeah,
Or something
exactly
like hot
right. You
dogs.
just have a religion, like a religious requirement that says you can only really 4 days. There have been people playing around with that idea. It's going to be really entertaining to see the different ways people exploit current legal structure to get 4-day work weeks recognized.
I mean, a lot of people have brought this up, but I am really curious to see if having everybody work from home this much, if this is going to be like, at the end of this, will more people work from home more often, or will everyone be sick of it?
Well, I can say that right now, Zoom, the sort of web meeting manufacturer, so to speak, is market cap is worth about half of all American airlines combined right now.
Zoom is taking off like crazy.
I mean, it might be
airlines
effective
aren't, right?
at a massive
No,
player
the exact
base. They're
opposite.
like
It's
massive
like
user base.
it's cheaper for me to fly to Miami round trip than Spokane right now.
Yeah, it's cheap. It's cheaper for it's same for me to Arkansas. It's more expensive for me to fly to Arkansas than it is to fly to like Hawaii or New York.
Yeah. Speaking of which,
Who's
I didn't get my tickets to
who's
Hawaii.
pricing flights?
It's big because
Oh, I
of
was
the
just
number of legs. I think.
checking it out because I assumed they had to be like rock bottom.
So we are going to wrap things up here. Thanks for joining us. As always, you can leave us you can send us an audio email to podcast@symbolcrash.com or leave us a voicemail at 206 gun narc or 206 486 6272. And now more than ever, hacking is not just a crime. It's a survival
survival
trade. Okay.
That's gonna be.
It's gonna be hard to sync.
Yeah.
That sounds great. No, that sounds
No,
awesome.
No, that was
hard.
perfect. I'm
Yeah.
keeping that. We're gonna fade out right here.